Good afternoon, everyone. It is December the 14th, 2025. I just put a video up there on Julie, and I got a call from Julie, and since what's going on in the States right now, and Trump's hinting still he wants Canada as a 51st state, and all the tariffs and stuff has been going on, and I said, well, there's so much going on around the world that everything is confusing to people who are close to the streets, who are people who don't know how to get information. It's very difficult for them. And so I decided to, because she called me up and she was concerned about what our Prime Minister was saying about the 300,000 volunteer citizens army and what that meant. And that was something that he brought up last week. So I decided to, Julie, come over, I'll do an impromptu video with you today, and that's the video before this video I'm putting up on Canada Strong. And it's a lot of the stuff has been going on the streets because there's so much going on. Those who are living on the streets are very confused. They're trying to talk among themselves because they're hearing this, they're hearing that. They don't know exactly what's going on. Julie was worried. She wanted to see if I could explain it. So I gave her some YouTube channels to get onto as well to help her try and explain it. And then I tried to explain it to her in the best of my ability. And I felt like after her interview, I needed to come on and explain some things as well, which I was trying to explain to Julie as well. And so I was explaining what the Citizens Army means. And it's not the Citizens Army that's going to go to war. We are going to, as the Prime Minister said, and our head general here in Canada said, we're going to beef up our army to go and do the fighting. But with this 300,000 citizens army that we're talking about, you're not going to be put on the front lines. You're going to be put in behind the lines in Canada here and doing volunteer work in Canada to help the war effort, if that ever came down to it. And and she says, well, what does that mean? What does a civilian army do? So I'm going to try to explain it to you as I explained it to Julie, that from my experiences being a baby boomer right after the Second World War and talking to the veterans, and also being a history buff and being able to read and understand the history as well, I'm going to start with the Second World War and what they did, what this meant. And I'll use Britain for an example because they had a civilian army at work. When the men went to work and they were left with, okay, who runs the factories? We've seen that in America as well. The women went to work in the factories to produce the ammunition and everything else. Now that's probably one of the things that's going to happen, is women and those who are unfit to even go into the army will be doing that sort of work. Another thing that they did in Britain, they put civilian teams of volunteers. Also, you had some police working the streets. You might find teams also working through the streets to protect the neighborhoods and that too. That's another thing that they did there in Britain. Another thing that they did was they had, I think it was something like 180,000 strong women, because back then, of course, the women didn't go to war. But the way they did the war effort to support the war was Britain had to feed itself. So what they did was they had these 180,000 strong women. They went onto the farms and they literally worked the farms, seeded the crops, harvest the crops to feed the nation, which was a necessity as well. So we might find ourselves, if we ended up going to war, and that's still an if, but it's a big if right now because it seems to be getting closer to, people are really starting to talk about it now and worried about it. So what they did was they fed the nation. They held up everything. And now, I mean, when you look at it, another thing you might do, as I said, for the war effort, would be the military and our soldiers are going to need, so for example, you might be filling up like bandages, first aid kits. You might be putting first aid and bandages and stuff for that to be sent in a plane. All these kits would be sent in a plane to the battlefield. Same thing they had to do, they used our Canadian lumber at the time. Now, whether it's Canadian lumber, Canadian steel, or how they want to do stretchers, back in World War II, they used wood from our supply of wood here in Canada to do stretchers, to make up stretchers, for people to make up the stretchers, because they're going to need them on the battlefield as well. They're going to, and of course they have to put stretchers together, and then they have to also pile them and send the stretchers out there, so they're going to have to get people to load the stretchers on the planes, as well as probably we'll have to be putting blankets and things like that together. So this was my understanding of the war effort that might be required by a civilian army. It doesn't mean we're going to war. What they're talking about, because they know a lot of people are not fit to go to war, like, for example, myself, I'm not fit to go to war, okay, because I'm not physically fit now as a senior. But I would not mind being voluntarily putting a medical kit or something together like that. Something that I can do where I'm sitting. And my hands, there's nothing wrong with my hands. There's nothing wrong with my brain. I just, physically, I'm walking and stuff like that's getting a little harder on me. So I'm certainly not physically fit to go to war. But it does not mean that I could not volunteer in doing something like that. So it's been very, very difficult on everyone. Like, Julie was somewhat in a panic, and again, even our street people are talking about, what does this mean if we go to war? What's going to happen to us? And as I've tried to explain in the video to Julie, this is what I'm seeing. Our Prime Minister is trying to prepare us for the possibility of war. The Conservative government there is screaming, oh yeah, the bill's going too high, it's going to take us generations to pay off these warplanes and stuff that we're talking about, and all the stuff that we're going to modernize our army and that. Well, the thing is, with the army, they're getting worn down. We have to get planes. Trudeau, yes, former Prime Minister Trudeau had, because the time, the States was definitely our ally. And we didn't have a problem with the F-35 planes, for example. And we had a supply chain between the two countries that we, as allies, we would have been fighting this war together. Now, as Trump has been scaring everybody on the 51st state, that he wants Canada to become the 51st state, and it's even hitting more home because of Venezuela right now, and him hitting those boats off the coast of Venezuela, supposedly for drug trafficking, and that's not 100% sure either. And that's what we're seeing now. He's just demonstrating, well, he wants to bring down Venezuela, and I know I've watched videos, and Venezuela is a much smaller country than Canada is, that's for sure. Even the experts were saying that it could probably be overrun by the American army easily. And he wants their oil reserves, the same thing as he wanted Canada's oil reserves and our mineral oil reserves. And the way I look at it too, and Carney's looking at it too, he's doing the right thing. He's bringing the allies, NATO, and everybody, the UN, and everybody together. All the countries are looking at each other. We know we have to stick together, and that's what I mean by shared leadership. The countries that want democracy now are coming forward, and we realize we have to stick together and do this together. And so this is why we're looking at bringing in more, oh my goodness, what's the word there? I'm lost. It's been a long day, and I know Julie was pretty frustrated there this morning when I talked to her. So, and then it's very difficult to talk to Julie too sometimes on the video because she does get so frustrated. But we have to bring up the economy with all the jobs and stuff, and all the things that make the economy work, and the industries that have to come in. That's the word I was looking for, industries. And so we are, and we're seeing industries now from the United States wanting to move into Canada, and of course the states were trying to, because we're on the supply chain, was trying to get some of these places that build for GM, for an example. The car company they've got parts that we get from the States, and GM is up here, and he was trying to snatch GM from Canada back into the States, and it looks like GM may be wanting, and especially something like, I think I just heard Toyota was building cars in the States. Now they want to come to Canada. So it's a battle. We're seeing it. And of course the tariffs. Well, that's really hitting them hard. They're starting to understand, and unfortunately, like I said, I'm not against the American people, but I know one thing. Trump really messed the people up. And the young people have never been through a war. Now, I wasn't through the war. I was born after the war. But I got to understand what the war did to the generation before us. And talking to the soldiers and that came back from the war, and just how grateful I am for what they gave us, that 75 to 80 years of peace that we've had in the world today. And that has been something that people don't understand, because not having gone through a war, not even being close to hearing what the war did, of course, he was able to sweet talk all these people in, and the wrong way. And so I'm not blaming them for voting for Trump. I can't. They were just, it's a human frailty, if you want to call it, where you get a narcissist like coming in and he can just sweet talk anybody. So it was like growing up and doing politics and that, and listening to my parents, I got the, okay, that person over there, I don't want to vote for that person. Why do you not want to vote for that person? Then my parents or my grandfather explained, well, that guy's talking out both sides of his mouth. He's talking about something, but he hasn't got any substance behind what he's actually talking about. And then, of course, we have Trump. He was explaining, oh, yeah, I'm going to put on tariffs, and everybody heard about it. Well, they went ahead anyhow and voted, not realizing that he wasn't joking around until it actually hit. So for me, it's trying to explain that I'm not against anybody. I'm trying to explain to people what it means, this army that we're building up. But I think my grandfather said it best of all, is that not that the country or your country wants to go to war, but it's the idea of having the protection that you need to protect the country, so that another country doesn't see you as a weak country and they're the powerful country and come in and take your country. And I think what Trump did, like, I think is kind of cute, because I mentioned in the video about Pearl Harbor, and that was a sneak attack on Pearl Harbor. But as it was after the aftermath of that, they woke the sleeping giant. That's what everyone said. And what Trump did up here to Canada was he poked and woke up the sleeping bear up here. You don't wake up a bear out of hibernation. We may have been in temporary hibernation to what was going on, but don't wake a hungry bear up out of hibernation. You never do that, or you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Well, he poked the bear. So he woke us up to Canada Strong. So I put this up for everyone today, just to sort of give a brief idea of what's going on. One of the things I gave to Julie too, and if you want to hear more about what's going on in Canada, there's another YouTube channel I will direct you to, and that is Midas Canada. All right, MEDIAS Canada. That is run by a former NDP MPP from our federal government, Charlie Angus. He is running that. He is getting people together. You'll hear just how furious we are, people getting their gun licenses up here now, which we never thought we'd have to do. They're prepared to go to the volunteer army. He's got a lot of information, and I think this is where you need to be directed as well. But I just wanted to let people know that this volunteer army of 300,000 people does not mean that you're going to war. You will not be on the front lines. And Julie was worried, am I going to get pulled in off the street because am I physically fit? Do they think I can go? You know, and some of them people, like I said, they're talking a lot about it. And Julie was kind of concerned and came to ask me. So I felt it was a good idea and a good opportunity to put this up on my YouTube channel, so you have a little bit of an idea. And I know if worse comes to worse, I'll gladly volunteer myself. And I think there's so many Canadians across here, and as Charlie Angus put it, even if 1% of our population here in Canada volunteered, that would be so much stronger, as he put, than I'm not sure if it was ISIS or one of those. We'd be able to win the war against the States. And it seems like Donald Trump, too, underestimates everything, like they underestimated when Canada and the United States were in the War of 1812. Now, this is an old war, definitely back to 1812, but Canada did win the War of 1812 against the United States. For those in other countries I know who are watching this video don't understand that. We won it back then, and we won't be brought down that easily. And we're hearing from other countries, and it's right on his Charlie Angus's YouTube channel as well. Other countries are volunteering as well. If the States tries to come up here into Canada, they're going to volunteer, and they're going to come and fight on our side. So it's not a good situation, and especially I don't know why he thinks he's going to go to war against the whole entire world, because that's just the craziest thing that I think I've ever heard of. And this guy is completely nuts. And somehow he seems to think that not only is he the king of the United States, he thinks he can become the king of the world. But you can't have more than one war going on at a time. So what's he going to do? Come charging into Canada, charging into Venezuela? Where else is he going to charge into? You know, you've got someone up there that's not there, and is, the old term is he hasn't got all his marbles. That's the way we used to frame it when I was growing up. A person that wasn't up. Of course, they didn't know what dementia and Alzheimer's was back then. So we always used to say, oh, they're crazy, they don't have their marbles. So I'm just going to use an old expression there as well. So I'm going to leave it there today, everyone. I really appreciate everyone watching my channel. It's been, like I said, this is one of the hardest things that the world is really in topsy-turvy right now. And it's definitely, we've come out of the pandemic, a totally new and different world from what we've actually seen, even though there are some things that are the same. But right now, I would suggest everybody who is able to volunteer, even in the social levels and the lower levels. So, as I was trying to explain, we have to get our army up so we can defend our country. We have to get our economy going so we have money coming in, so that we can actually pay for our social programs. So, as I was saying, there's going to be a lot of pain in the short term probably coming. We don't know just where that's going to go or where it's going to lead just now. Hopefully it starts straightening out in the midterm, and then hopefully we come out with the rainbow at the end of the tunnel there. With, you know, they always talk about the sunshine at the end of the tunnel, and I'm hoping the sunshine and the rainbow ends up at that tunnel, and we get back to a world of peace again, is where I'm trying to say. But like I said, I'm going to leave it there, everyone. It's getting kind of long, and we'll talk again soon. And bye-bye. Take care.